What job should marketing get done in a company?
Marketing's job, its only job, is to grow the company. That's it. It's to grow the company.
That's Devin Bramhall. She was a VP of marketing and then the CEO for Animalz, the legendary agency which I learned a ton from reading their blog, and she is now a Fractional Chief Growth Officer. Devin understands marketing from every angle, as a CEO, as a VP of marketing, and as an individual contributor, which provides her with crisp and actually helpful advice for modern marketers. Why marketers shouldn't think like CEOs and instead should just think like marketers, and why the point of life is to enjoy it. I hope you enjoy this episode, but before we get back to it, run the intro. Welcome to On Marketing, a show to help you think more strategically about marketing and potentially life. I won't tell you what to think, I'll help you improve how you think. I'm Jordan Ogren, a marketing strategist with 9 years of experience and a podcast host for the last 4. This episode was originally recorded on January 6, 2026. All views shared are the individual views of the host and guests, not those of their employers or associated organizations. This show is intended for informational purposes and not professional advice. Thank you for being here.
You had Mark Rogers on recently, and he used to work for me at Animalz. And then when he left, he went to Fresh Paint, and a friend of mine is one of the founders of the company. So it's like, I was like, oh my God, Mark. And I really respect him a lot as a marketer, just like from working with him and seeing what he's done since at Fresh Paint. And one of the things I really like about him is that he is very like purpose driven, but he's also curious. And so he like just listening to him and the way he thinks about like AI and what is SEO now and what is content marketing, like I think he's really spot on about it's not awareness, it's preference, brand preference, right? And I agree with all of that, right? Like marketing does have like the way marketing manifests, the how, right? That's the how. You want to develop brand preference. You want to develop a community around you, right? But those are all the pieces of they're how you fulfill the purpose of marketing exists to grow companies.
What Devin did, I'm guessing you didn't have that idea of the job of marketing 10 years ago, 15 years ago when you started, or like what maybe helped you realize, because I've been in this journey as well of like realizing marketing isn't growing a company, it's just cheerleading, and the game still goes on without cheerleaders. So the marketing needs to be more of the head coach. What was it for you? Probably time, just like over and over again, you notice like, oh, marketing needs to drive growth in these ways and pull these levers to do that. And those levers are constantly changing. But love to hear how you've shifted your mind on that. Definition of marketing. Boom, being the CEO.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, being a career marketer and then going to run a company for 4 years and growing it very successfully, it was almost like it blended all the ingredients together and made everything click. I was like, oh, right? And what was cool about it after is I actually think like having bridged that gap in my own understanding very viscerally, right? By playing deeply on both sides, I started to be able to help my clients better because I can deeply empathize with the CEO now, which you really need to be able to do in order to, if you're a marketer, get them on your side, get them rooting for you, get them excited about what you're doing, to say yes, to kind of stop micromanaging. And on the other side, I was able to help marketers start to understand, why the CEO is pushing back, why, whatever it is they're giving is the reason, like I can see behind that. And so starting to create those aha moments for marketers. And that's, I kind of fell into consulting after I left Animalz. It's been, like 3 years now, maybe 4. And this whole time I've been like, I don't know, like consulting was fine. It was easy, honestly. It was very easy to make an impact very quickly. And I was bored and I've not been able to figure out my purpose. I finally pieced it together. I was like, I need to help marketers, specifically marketing leaders. Once you get to a certain level, like beyond manager, right? Your director, your VP, your head of marketing, your CMO, that's where it gets really tricky. Like that's where this problem really starts to manifest because you're the one in charge. You don't really, you don't really have anyone else to get that buy-in for you. It's on you. And I saw so many marketers asking the wrong questions, giving updates about things that even I didn't care about. I was like, so what, right? And it's not that it's not important, right? But as a CEO, I was like, this doesn't like, can you get to the point kind of? And so I'm really like, I'm so passionate about this now. I, like, this is my mission starting in 2026. And I've been thinking about it for a while. And so, I think these, along the way, I've had these like inflection points. I've had these realizations and finally they're all coming together. I'm like, I know what it is. I know what I need to do. I know who I need to
Uh,
help.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think like being in the role of the CEO or even just being more kind of senior kind of has the ability to nudge you to think more like the CEO. And I've heard so many different ways of the best marketers think like CEOs, or Dave Gerhardt has thrown that out there. And there's all these different kind of ways about it. But I really do think one of the best ways is to become the CEO. Then all of your thinking changes of like, oh, we're not posting on social, or like, oh, we did this blog or that. You're starting to think in the bigger terms. Aside from becoming a CEO of a company, which maybe not all of us have the opportunity, talk to some of those. I know you just talked about the senior level marketers, but maybe some of those like junior to be mid senior eventually, like how can we start to make progress on thinking more like a CEO or getting to where you're at? And maybe it's the things you shed or it's the things you think differently about, but I'd love to just hear some like tactical things for someone early in their career where they haven't had the opportunity, but they will just be way better when they start thinking in the CEO or growth lens that you're talking about.
Well, I've got great news for those folks. You absolutely, like, I don't agree at all that the best marketers think like CEOs. I think that's wrong. Because if you haven't been a CEO, you can't,
It's true.
right? And don't try, right? Why would you try to do something that you absolutely like is impossible? I never could have thought like a CEO until I was one and I got my ass kicked, right? And so don't try. The best marketers think like marketers. And part of a marketer's job is to deeply get to know their customers. Well, guess what? Your CEO, your CFO, for some reason your CTO, because in B2B marketing, they always get involved, even though I don't know what they're doing. But those are your customers too. They're just a customer in a different capacity. They're people you need to convince. And so you study them. You study, you listen to them in a different way, right? When you're in meetings with them, instead of putting on that, like, I know for me, when I was a manager and I first started being in more executive type meetings, I was nervous. I was intimidated. I was like kind of on this defensive mode constantly trying to prove that I was smart. And as a result, I wasn't able to really hear everything that was going on and pick up all the signals in the room. And so, these were two of my values that I set when I ran Animalz. And I swear, like, I live my entire life by them now. And it's curiosity and bravery. And I think, if you're if you're a marketer and you're sort of, even if you're interested in maybe like, moving up. I never wanted to be a CMO. P.S. I've actually never technically been one. I think it's the worst job in the world right now, just as it stands right now in B2B marketing specifically. But I think what you want to do is put on your curiosity hat. And to be curious does require some bravery because, you're going to have to be in situations that might make you a little uncomfortable, that you're not familiar with, and still be really open to receiving, being, open to asking questions in front of a room where you think everyone's going to think your question is stupid. P.S. I've got good news on that too. The higher up you get in your role, like the more senior you are, the more basic your questions get. I'm like, what? Half the time when I'm talking to my CEO clients, I'm like, what are you saying? Like jargon, and I'm just like, what? Like, what literally do you want? Like, give me a number, give me a. And so, I think that's really it, is like think like a marketer and do your research. And the best way that I found to do research is having a mindset and sort of like a mode of operations of like curiosity and bravery. The bravery makes sure I don't get too comfortable and stay in one place. And kind of forces me to get outside my comfort zone. Curiosity helps me receive. And what you do with that information as a marketer, thinking like a marketer, is you figure out how to get your way, right? Literally, marketing is just a big exercise in manipulation. And so it's like, okay, I want X, right? I want to get this strategy approved. I want this much in budget, right? And you're like, who do I have to convince to get it? Who matters? Oh, I want the CEO. Okay, well, I'm never going to get the CEO if I don't get the head of product who isn't even in these meetings, but is their best friend. And they were like, whatever. And start to tackle it like a marketer. What's the campaign you're going to run? How are you going to do it? So
I
that's
love
my
that push.
advice.
Yeah. I love that pushback, Devin. I would add courage instead of bravery just because I love the CCs. So you would have kind of curiosity, courage. And then I think that usually leads you to have a somewhat contrarian stance. And contrarianism has taken its own wings and flown to this place of like devil's advocacy. But Naval Ravikant, who's this VC angel fund person, he talks about contrarianism as really just building from first principles, which is funny because most times when you build from first principles, you actually land so differently than someone building from third principles or four. Like, we're going to do a podcast, and then the question is, why are we launching a podcast versus building from first principles? So my question, though, because I like your pushback on like marketers think like marketers, but I've been in so many meetings with marketers, and almost the marketing word now is less of this curiosity around what is in the word market or is in the market, but it's more on like tactics and doing stuff. And so many times, like, people will jump to a tactic, and then in my mind, I'm like, but who is it for? What do they want and all that? How do you be more curious? I guess like maybe it's just the worlds that I circle in that I don't think currently the term marketer, people think of like, oh, defining the market of who we play in, being curious about those people, and then also being curious to your point about the organizational dynamics of the people within it and all that. I don't see that a lot in marketers. So like, while I think I like your idea of marketers think like marketers, like the term marketing is like different than what we're talking about, Alba. I don't know. Like, what are your kind of
No,
riff on that?
You're spot on. And some of this is a product of B2B marketing specifically. B2B marketing is light years behind marketing in general. Like, if you go to more like enterprise style companies, like there is more of a business bent on marketing, which can be kind of boring too. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I agree with you that specifically in B2B marketing, it's kind of like this, they're either speaking deeply about like the tactics or like kind of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it rather than outcomes. That was my something that I really evangelized at Animalz. I said, when you're talking to your clients, it's not about articles, it's about outcomes, right? That's what you're delivering. And the more I kind of dug into that over the years myself, the more I realized that marketers are business strategists if you let them. And to your point, they're not even trying right now. And I think part of that is due to this, like, content marketing kind of took over everybody's idea of marketing in B2B. And no, right? Like, that's not all there is. And I think the folks doing content marketing became a bit precious about it. And there was a lot of like, no, this is wrong and this is right and this is bad. Like, when I heard Mark talking about, he was talking about something in SEO and he was like, oh, people are going to come after me for this. I'm like, exactly. Like, that's the mindset that created this place where marketers are like, no, I am morally in this camp. I don't agree. And what it did is it pit them against leadership. But if you're thinking, if you're a marketer, your job is to grow the company, right? Then you're a business strategist then. And to be able to grow the company, you need to understand how the company operates, the market that it plays in, like you said, the finances, right? Obviously, you're not going to like get access to the books, but like you can talk to your CFO. You know what I mean? You can ask. Like, the only way I learned how to do the finances for Animalz was just asking a lot of questions of you know what I mean? It's like, I look back on things that I wrote, I'm like, oh, that was stupid. But like, it's what it takes to get there, right? And so I think, those are like taking those tactical steps of like, first it's a mindset switch where it's like, I'm a business strategist tasked with growing the business. The lane through which I grow the business is through marketing. Marketing can mean anything. Like, why? And this is why I'm totally favoring Mark right now, but like I listened to it the other day and I was like, yes, Mark, yes. Like it's not marketing isn't just blog post, social distribution, like it can be anything you want it to be if it works and bringing your customers to you in the right way, right? And within the budget, right? Within the cost of like, whatever your CAC is, or, and I think that like marketers in general, to be able to do this job, like truly become business strategists, they need to clear all of their understanding of what marketing is, all of their understanding about what sales is and customer success. Just get rid of them. Just stop thinking about it. You come into a company, you're tasked with a job. Now, lowered when you're at levels when you're still like manager, kind of individual contributor, usually you're in a focus area, right? Where it's like you've been hired to do content. I was a content marketer for most of my career, and I did events, I did partnerships, and these weren't other people's ideas that were put on me. I was like, hey, this would fast track us to our goal. Hey, I don't have to write all these blog posts if I do this, right? And that's when you start to get to real strategy. Strategy isn't putting together a plan of blog posts you're going to write or what. No, strategy is finding the shortest distance between where you are and where you want to be, ideally the cheapest way too, right? It's like that's true strategy, because you're working. A plan is just, if I want to go shopping today, like, and I need to run errands. I know where I have to go. I'm able to get there. It's just about like, what order do I go in? That's a plan. A strategy is like, you're working against constraints. Okay, I need to, put together X type of marketing strategy. Okay, what is all the information I have surrounding this? Well, this is my budget, and it's not enough to do, a full content program the way I want to do it. I have to convince the CEO, and I really want the like, whatever, design lead or something, because like I need them for a few, right? You're like, okay, I really don't, they're not giving me a lot of time to do this. And so even though I'm used to doing content this way, I really need to figure out how to get there faster. Because if I can, and this is where like, I don't know why I always thought this way. I think I just love getting my way. But it was like, it was always about like the next right place. And so I was like, if I can fulfill this one thing and get my CEO to be psyched, then I can go and ask for this other thing and do this bigger thing, right? That's a strategic mindset. And that's someone who doesn't get mad about their constraints and frustrated and like, this is wrong and right. Those are the people who are having way more fun and driving, I believe, more better outcomes, however you want to say it.
That was like a masterclass, Devin, on kind of the setting the strategy. And honestly, I know some people listening might be like terrified at all of like understanding the economies of scale for the company and all these things. But like, I think the best marketers are excited about like, and I'm in a role right now where it's like clients or I'm prospecting. So I do that for every prospect to try to be like, how does this company make money? Because if I don't understand that, then it's very hard to like share a strategy or so. I love that. And I think there's probably so much more. Devin has a book. She's on LinkedIn if you want to like hear more, because I was kind of excited, and I know I could talk to you probably forever about marketing strategy.
This now, so this goes back to, it's something that I was like, this is part of what I'm going to be teaching. So like, I have a course that I'm going to roll out on Maven. I'm starting a newsletter. Like this is kind of my passion. So like, there will be much more on this in great detail in the book.
Well, the energy and excitement is tangible in your voice, Devin. I love it. So now I think, though, I'm ready to kind of shift to more of maybe the more important topic of life. Are you ready to get into that?
We'll
As
see.
ready as you'll ever
We'll see.
be.
Yeah.
So, David, just for you, not for everybody else, what is the purpose of life, or what job are you hiring life for? So, at the end of life, you look back, and if you hired it for X and you did X, you say that was a life well lived. What is your answer to that question?
Before I answer, I'm really curious, like, why this question? How did you land on this? I'm just really like, it's a cool question and I like it a lot. Um, and I was listening to other folks answer on past episodes, and I was like, all I could think about was like, I wonder why this question?
So first, I think I'm deeply interested and curious about spirituality, life, all of those things. So one way to improve my own approach is to hear different takes, but also I've had a few people who take more of a pleasure seeking, and that really kind of shakes me. And I'm like, oof, maybe I need more of that pleasure. And then secondly, I find a lot of our ways that we do marketing are subconsciously girded by our ways that we view life. So if I'm a scarcity mindset, I will then gate my content, not saying that you should gate or not gate, certain things should be gated, but it's just this thought process that I've ran into so many marketers where they have this like control mindset, or they view life this way, and then their marketing naturally just flows out of that, because it's very hard to believe X in our life and then do marketing in a Y way or care about others when in our life we're like solely focused on self. So that's kind of where it is derived from.
I never made that connection, and that is like, sorry, I
I
drew
hope
the
it's a
sideline.
hypothesis.
Yeah, I was like, this has got no. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you say it. Yet, I never made that connection. So that's really cool. Okay, purpose of so my purpose. What is the job of life? Job of life
Yeah, what are you hiring life for?
to have a good time. And I say that like the reason I don't say be happy is because it's too optimistic, right? It's like I'm looking at it from a CEO's perspective, which is like stepping way, way back, right? Like my mom used to say, like you're in the balcony in the very back row, furthest away from the stage, right? It's like I just I want to enjoy myself. And that may sound very basic, but per our conversation before the podcast, like that actually is a revelation to me. I spent my entire life and career trying to prove myself in various ways, trying to please people. Oh, if this person likes me, it's not like it was conscious either, right? It's not about social climbing or, even really my reputation. It was about self-worth. And it was like only a couple years ago that I was like, oh, I'm supposed to have fun. And so this is a really it's a big deal to me to be thinking this way in the first place. I consider it more of a practice, right? Because it's hard to be in that. I have an ego. You know what I mean? Like I love to win. So it is something, that definitely requires practice, but even practicing it is more fun. Because if I find myself in a moment trying too hard in any capacity, I'm like, oh, I can just say less. Like I was writing an email this morning. I was like, this person doesn't care. So I was like, yes, that's great. I say sorry a lot less. It's like this whole idea of so many people talk about, oh, I have all these texts I have to answer or phone, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do you though? Like, just because someone reached out to you doesn't mean you have to respond. Just because someone can message you instantly doesn't mean you have to write them right back. Like, I developed a philosophy years ago, and it was um, for email, if I get back to you within a month, I'm on time. For text, if I get back to you within, I think it was like a week, I'm on time, which means that any time in those periods for either, I don't say sorry. Great to hear from you. Nobody said. Nobody said. I get to say, you get to say. And that's just
Hmm.
one of those, like, it's a really obvious example of what I'm talking about, that brings me lots of joy. I ignore text message. I just don't, it's not because I don't like the person or whatever. I just don't feel like writing them back.
I love that. And I think it's a bit of a meta point that I believe, I think A, first, boundaries are super important for everybody, but I know perfectionists have to lean more into those boundaries because you're just going to complete things or you'll run through it. But meta point is that I think I messaged you in 2023 on LinkedIn and I didn't get a response back. I think it was like an in mail, but then like I just shot my shot again and you responded. So I also think like, life works out, the universe like works its way, so like you can say no to people, it's okay. Like I didn't, maybe for like a day I cried, but like I moved on with my life, it was okay. But like we're
Like,
here now.
you're seeing it. I
so
probably got
so which is though like the meta point of just like things will come back if they need to be, not that you want to neglect emails or texts or whatever, but like so many times we feel obligated to say yes to appearances or certain things, and as they say in a totally different realm, like the teacher shows up when the student's ready, and I just find life happens when it's ready. And if like joy is found in kind of letting those messages go sometimes, more power to you. But I really enjoy your answer. Go ahead,
Yeah,
jump
well,
in.
just one last thing on that, because you really hit on something that I think is important, is like silence is a strategy. And so, as you thinking about what you want, if you're always operating like, what do I want out of this situation? What do I want out of my day, etc. You think differently about how often you respond to things, and you start to see it as a strategy. And I think that's really important too, is like, yes, boundaries have become this, ubiquitous. And look, I agree, boundaries are important, but I found that thinking about it that way reinforced this, like, almost not a negative mindset, but you're like blocking. And I'm like, no, 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 no. The whole point of boundaries is to open you up to something better, the thing that you really want, right? You're cutting noise so you have more space for the things that you want and that you enjoy. And so I like, that's why I started to get away from using that term, is like, okay, like you're not putting a wall between you and another country. Right? It's like, no, that's just pure. It's like, no, you're trying to create a better circumstance with which to welcome people and welcome the people that serve you, and just make yourself the kind of person that the people who don't serve you just aren't interested in the first place. Then you don't have to be actively setting boundaries all the time, right?
I like it. I like
My
it.
mom used to say, she repeated this quote, I don't know where it came from, but what you go after eludes you, what you become, you attract. And that's my, modus operandi.
I'm a pretty pragmatic person where I land on the place of like what works for you is important. So if your language around boundaries is like net negative, then don't use that. For me, I really enjoy the kind of visual of a boundary in the sense of it's protecting my energy. I've had family members or different people close to me that are going through things, and sometimes having no boundaries essentially depletes all of your energy because you're available every moment. And if they need a ride or they need these things, so I had to learn that actually it's in honor of love and respect to that person that I'm able to say like I'm available from these times to this time, but like after that it's me and my wife, or now it's me and my child and wife. Like, so I think it's, but again, if that was like getting negative and like I'm thinking too much about it, then I would change the word to like something else. So I
Well,
love
it's
that you
not
mentioned that.
negative. Going back to the very beginning, right? When you say, what is the purpose of marketing? The purpose, right, is the what you want. The boundary is the how. It's not meant to be the destination. So
That's true.
it's really, I mean, look, I've got blockades left and right here. But it's not my end goal. And that's the differentiation I make, is like, no, your goal isn't to have boundaries. Your goal is to have so much space to fill with the things that you want.
I love that. I love that. And back to your initial answer for the purpose of life, I find so many times we don't feel we're worthy of joy in the moment. And I read in that book I was talking to you earlier that joy is a birthright, that we gain joy based off being alive. Like our being, not our doing, leads to joy. And I find that perfectionists or people who work hard have such a struggle, which is like super funny. Like we'll let anybody else have joy. Like, yeah, that person on the street, I want joy for them. But then for me, it's like, I only only get it when I'm done with my work day, or I only get it once I edit this podcast. And it's like, why am I withholding joy from myself when it's unlimited and infinite and I get it like every second? So I love your point of like, if I'm not enjoying life, or I get to the end of it and I'm like, that was a struggle with no joy part of it, that's a sad life. And I don't care what I built or what I've achieved. I would also feel somewhat of not a failure in that sense, but just I failed at like achieving that joy, which was always present. It's like a cup that like you walk by every day and it's the same filling. And I think like, oh, if I drank it, it would go down. But if I drink it the next day, it's the same level. Every day I walk by that. And I find that with kindness and some of these other things that we don't realize are infinite supplies. Like we can't run out of love, joy, and kindness. Like we have unlimited amounts of it. So I like your point of like, enjoying life. That's such a big thing for people that are trying to strive and achieve and stuff. Just to accept that joy that's around us. And
like it only took me until almost 40 to figure it out, and then it took me another couple of years to figure out how to start implementing it, you know. But you're absolutely right. A purpose, a life full of too much purpose is a tragedy. And that's where I was headed.
You got the quotes today. I love it, Devin. All right, final question on the podcast here. There's this movie, Inception. It's about people going into the minds of other people to incept kind of nefarious ideas or dreams to then sell their company or to let somebody in. I want you to flip it more benevolent. What idea or dream would you go in the minds of every human on earth and incept? So tomorrow I wake up and the idea you incept is my own idea and I'm going to live out of it. Ooh. What idea do you incept to every human? So probably not marketing related, probably life, that tomorrow we all wake up and we have that idea, that dream, and we live out of it. And then hopefully the world is different because of that. What idea do you incept?
There is no way. There's no way. There's nothing. There's things that are done repeated and over time, but we're starting to see how that works out, right? Like, there's no, and so there's no way, there's no, correct and incorrect. There's no best and worst. Most of it is just opinion and influence and the way things have always been done. And as a homeschool kid, I had this freedom to think for myself my whole life. And for a long time, I wanted to fit in. And so I was trying to learn like the way. And, flash forward to, now after, like, there comes a point in your career where you're like, oh, everyone's making it up. Like, everyone, no matter how powerful they are, it just made up. It's literally people giving their opinions, that person having an opinion, and then deciding to do something. That is the entire world, the whole world. There is no way, which means that you have choice, and you have more choice than you realize.
I love that, Devin. I feel there's a lot of tentacles to that, but one tentacle is just this thought of non-dualism. It's a little bit off of what you said of just this thought of we think in so much duality, black and white, good and bad, where really if you start to like break some of those down, it's so ingrained to your point of an opinion that taking the Venezuelan president was bad or it was good, but like in like theory, it was just done. It just happened, and we formulate our things. Now, again, you can get to some points where it's whether it's child kind of things done to children or like, it's hard to kind of not go to a place of bad, wrong, not good. But I do think the more and more we can get out of this framing of like, that's a bad emotion, just to be like, it's an emotion. Maybe I don't enjoy that emotion in the moment, but like good, bad, really. I follow Rupert Sapira, who is a non-dualistic kind of teacher, and he talks so much about that kind of just the experience, or he talks about a screen in a projection on the screen, and the projection is kind of the good and bad. It's a chase in the movie, so our heart starts racing, but really the screen behind it has never changed. The projection on that screen has, and he talks about that being our presence and our I am within us, and that's what we should focus on. So I love your message, because I do think we have so much more choice. And when life, like we put, oh, this is a bad, like things keep happening to me, and we get into that dualistic mindset, it's very hard to move forward or to progress, rather than kind of living in this state of there is no way. I know the Mandalorian would be pissed to hear that, because he, I think, said like, this is the way. But again, I totally agree. We're all making our ways. We're all figuring out, like, no one's arrived, and the only way you can arrive is just to like be present and like arrive in this moment, because you'll never get to a future state that you're like, yes, I now know all the answers. answers, because as the smarter you get, the more you don't know.
Yeah, and I think just one last thing on that I think is really important is like I just had the worst year of my entire life. Like so many horror, like I lost my best friend in the whole world, like the one who like you, the one person you're like, I don't want you to die. Like everybody else can kind of like die and it'll be fine. Like I love you, but like it'll be all right. It's like, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is like, and that was like 1/2 of 1%. And everything went wrong, everything fell apart, and I was miserable, like miserable to a point where I was starting to question like life itself. Not in the like, should I do something about that, but like what the fuck. And I think that's important to say because a lot of this, like, when you start talking about spirituality, it can go into that, like, self-help mindset where you've got this person standing up there being like, everything's fine. I'm like, no, everything has been objectively horrible. Like the worst kind of pain felt and demoralization, all that. And I'm still like, because what I think about things doesn't matter. And I know that now. I'm able to slowly climb out the other side and have some things I'm excited about right now and be at a different, state of being day to day. It's not where I want to be, but I'm able to revel in it because it's progress. And I think that's a really important, just like last piece of this is like, this isn't something you achieve. Like, there's no gaslighting here. Like, I had to work so fucking hard, with like, not just no help, but the universe like actively trying to dismantle every single like positive thing I was trying to build, physical or otherwise. And I still like, I kept at it and got there. And so I think that's an important reminder to people is like, yeah, you're going to feel like it's impossible the entire time. Like you will get to this place that I got to where you have the best of intentions. You're trying so hard and you're doing everything right. And it won't work for a while still, sometimes, obviously, to a point where you're like, is anything ever going to work ever? And to your point earlier about, that mindset of like, oh, all these bad things happen to me. Like that was my mindset. I was like, the universe fucking hates me. Like I remember telling my mom, I've done everything. Like, is it the universe's turn yet? Because like I have done everything I can do. And the reality was I hadn't, because I was still victimizing myself, right? I was still deciding that there was a way and the universe wasn't doing their way. It was until, right? And once I shed that, I was able to see what all that pain was teaching me, how it was literally forcing me out of this mindset my entire life of like, I will earn my worthiness. It was making me so fed up with everyone, including myself, that it forced the change. And so, this isn't one of those things that like, oh, I'm so happy my life's been so great. It's like, no, it's hard won. And that's part of the point. That's part of how you enjoy it more is when you get to that other side. When I got, when I finished my last day of chemo, I was elated. Like you have this, and, even lately I'm like, oh my God, I have the energy to go to the gym regularly again. Yeah. It's like, all those things, you start being able to see joy in more things and you forget about that negativity that you had before. It just happened. It's what you do with it that matters.
Thank you, Devin, for having the courage to share that. I do find sometimes these conversations, because we usually, I don't want to say like naturally are more performative, we're usually talking about the positives or that, but I do think what you're talking about is so true that they call it the dark night of the soul, where essentially the kind of underlying rationale of how the world works is just pulled, whether that's because, and I am more of a follower of the way of Christianity, so there's so many, the Job story, where this cause and effect of like, man, I'm doing everything for God, yet I'm being essentially by Satan, the adversary, I'm being kind of taken. My family's dying. I have rashes all over. Like none of these things are working. And clearly today we have a different perspective on maybe cause and effect. But back in the day, there was rain gods, there was sun gods. They had this very thick understanding that if I do good, God rewards me. And I think the Job story was, some people take it to be literal. I take it to be more of a once upon a time story, but it was for those people, the Israelites, to understand sometimes shit happens. And even when you worship Yahweh, your God, he doesn't give you external things, but he'll always give you the peace, the joy within to kind of go through the suffering. And I find so many times people talk about dying before you die, of how it's so important to kind of accept that death is inevitable, because your answer about enjoyment, and you were very specific about not happiness. And I think happiness can make us live a cushioned life, that we don't really care about this or that, and we keep paying to stay happy, or paying to stay kind of like we don't see what's going on in these other countries. And I find so many times that the real growth, the real progress comes when we just accept these things and realize, to your point, like that you could have one year that's just so good. You can have the next where you get cancer and a friend passes, or a child dies, and all these things. And having a 13-month-old, I've had so many moments where I'm holding her and I just go through that process of, she could die tomorrow and I need to be able to live, because she wouldn't want me to also then get to a point where I've been just with the job searches or different points where, yeah, you get to the point where you question life. I've even gone far enough, because I have a history of that, of just like, I don't feel like it's worth living. And coming out of that is always a place of different insight or different understanding. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think to get to joy, to get to peace, it is never a really easy way, and actually taking the frictionless path leads you to happiness, but not to the deeper joy and peace in some of those things that I find life is more and more about. So thank you for sharing that. And this was a really fun conversation, Devin.
I love this. I was so excited. I was like, you're asked, like, I don't know. I get so bored by questions, people ask you the same question, and you're like, oh. And I was so excited. I was like, ooh, this is going to be. So thank you so much for doing this and thinking this way, because it's been really fun for me too. So
I appreciate that. And thank you, Devin, for coming on and sharing your wisdom. I know I and the 4 to 5 other listeners definitely took something away. So thank you so much. And this is the end of the podcast. What one idea or topic of conversation stood out to you today? Write it down, share it with a friend, post it on social. The main thing is take action. That's how we go from theory to mastery. We need to practice. We need to put it into practice. Thank you for listening and being here, and I hope you tune in next week.